Hey, this is Charlie again with 4BZ Truth. I wanted to actually make my third and final addition to the flat earth philosophy, being a slave to your bias. I wanted to make this a little more detailed than the last couple just because I was just kind of brainstorming on those last two that I did. By the way, this is a revision from the last one that I did of part 3, but I made some mistakes and I didn't really, I just wanted to redo this video. So anybody that might have received that, just forget about the first one, but this is the redo. So anyways, I guess I wanted to just kind of put this out there that bias is somebody's worldview, whatever topic it could be. You might have a presuppositional understanding on everything that you're looking at. So, say for instance, you're religious, so you view everything through that lens of understanding. Or if you're an atheist, you view everything through that lens of understanding. And then you have just every variety of bias that you can possibly think of. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own philosophy. Everybody has their own understanding or outlook on life. But the question is everybody's bias, I mean, can it be considered right or wrong? And my thought about this whole thing, about why I'm even trying to do this, is that I'm going to say it's not even so much that evidence or truth is absolute. I believe it's your bias that causes things to be the determining factor on what is true. And now, when I'm saying that somebody's bias can determine that something is false, and then someone else's bias says it's true, I'm just saying that the bias that you have will determine on how you view evidence as the truth. So I'm trying to think of an example. So if you have empirical evidence, scientific, you can't deny its validity. It is tangible. It is something that is physical, and 1 + 1 = 2. Now, if you have a bias that says, that only works in this environment. If we lived in another planet, maybe it's different or something. It's stupid. I mean, you can't put these little twists of understanding on just reality, because you can really twist anything that you want to your advantage. And I find this a lot in religion, Christianity specifically. If you watch my last couple, you know that I'm a Christian. There's a lot of dogmatic views coming from whatever variation of Christian you might be, Catholic, Mormon. But I call myself a Christian just based on the fact that Jesus was a man that lived, and he was considered the Messiah, which is also, that was kind of the word that came from the Aramaic, but the word Christ actually came from the Greek, or Christos. So the point is, I consider myself a follower of his teachings or his philosophy. So if that's the lens that I view reality through, so I'm seeing my glasses here, they're how I see clearly, right? Well, if my clarity comes through that lens of understanding, that's what we're trying to accomplish, right? We're trying to see things clearly. The interpretation of your evidence must be seen from a clear perspective. So if you're looking at it through like a freaking thick soda bottle, I don't know, like an example of like, those thick like glasses that you're legally blind or whatever, but you still have a prescription. the point is, you have to be able to see, properly interpret what you're seeing. And I'm going to say right now that if I go back in the beginning of my investigation, I'll break away from the flat Earth for a minute. I'll start when I was investigating the Noah's Ark from Ron Wyatt. That was one of the first things that I thought was amazing, and I couldn't believe that it was even true. But then I had a lot of people that, when they looked at it, they're like, well, that kind of looks like maybe that's not anything, and you're just making things up. And I'm thinking, okay, well, and then later to find Josephus, who's an extra biblical source of, he was a Jewish historian documenting the times right after Jesus, talking about, the destruction of the temple. But Josephus actually did a genealogy, or, story starting from Adam, and it went all the way through. If you actually go and look at the first books of Josephus, you will find that, I believe it might have been book 7, but I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on the number, but he goes into how each person or child that was born from their parent, the same way the Bible does it, like Adam begot Cain and Abel, and then he also begot Seth, and Seth begot so-and-so, and going up the list all the way to Noah. And Josephus actually did his own rendition of that. And, it's very interesting because as he's describing these individuals, he's actually referred to Seth and his kids settling the land. I'm trying to remember where it was, but there was like, gosh, you got to go through and actually do the, the Antiquities of the Jews by Josephus, because you're going to find that there's some locations that are described as the place of descent. And there's a reason why I was bringing this up, because the place of descent is considered Noah's Ark's resting place. Now, an interesting tie-in, I'm not a Muslim, but listen to this. If you are a Muslim, you will know that Muhammad actually made reference to a location called Mount Judi. Now, Mount Judi, if you actually do a Google search, Judi, I think it is, or Judy, whatever. I think it's Judi. You will find this location is considered the place of descent. And it brings up that mountain that Noah's Ark rests on. That's the Ron Wyatt location. So if you actually tie up these loose ends, you'll find that this is validated information. It's validated historically. And so you have, number one, you have a physical location. Number two, you have historical validation. And number three, you have more than one document, such as the Bible. You have, in the multitude of witnesses, you have more than one witness here. So you have, I believe Muhammad's writings, the Quran. You have the Bible, and you also have Josephus. And those are just the ones that I'm thinking of right off the top of my head that can validate that. Now, like, the whole purpose of why I'm even talking about this is somebody's skewed presuppositions that force them to not look at the evidence correctly. They choose to look at their evidence through skewed, because I was talking to this atheist that was so adamant that there was no evidence for religion, there's no evidence for Christianity. The same thing that I hear with there's no evidence for the flat earth. Absolutely no evidence. And I'm thinking, you're an idiot. You refuse to look through the correct lens of understanding. So anyways, that kind of, was the start of my path. I actually later started looking into the 9/11 attacks. And I wasn't that conspiratorial because I'm going to say this is around 2007, 2008 that I ended up starting to look into the 9/11 stuff and thinking, could it have really been, an inside job, or could it have really been, I think that there's only one thing that really sold me, and that was not one thing, I'm sorry. There was multiple things that sold me on this, but the one thing that, got me to seal the deal in my mind was the Pentagon having no evidence of a plane crashing into it, yet that was the official story. So, anyways, and then the 9/11 Commission refuses to look at any other information. There's more people that came forward to provide information. Anyways, the whole 9/11 thing, I don't even want to get into very much at this point. It's just the progression of how my mind started to shift. You go to the eye doctor, you get a new prescription. That's what I did. I was getting a new prescription so that I could understand the evidence that I was looking at. So my worldview then shifted, and I became more aware of what I was actually looking at and from the correct view. So going forward, I ended up looking at so there's Ron Wyatt's findings. Then there was the 9/11 stuff. Then I started getting into the history of dinosaurs, dragons, and that is a very interesting topic for me because, that's one of the biggest arguments that I had with atheists because, if you find these dinosaur bones, and that's part of the whole topic of the Noah's flood too, because all you ever find on these dinosaur bones, and not just dinosaur bones, but every skeleton of animals that you find today are just in these mass graveyards. If you go to I live in Idaho, in Boise, Idaho, and I have a place called Hagerman Fossil Bed that's not far from here, and they have what they call the Hagerman horse. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is I feel like it goes back to a view that if everything's based on evolution, you're going to have trouble trying to identify what these specific creatures are. Now, why would they call it a Hagerman horse? Because they don't think that zebras lived over here, for one thing. And in my opinion, it looks a lot like a zebra, but then again, what do I know? I'm not like what is it, an anthropologist or someone that is able, or a paleontologist or a archaeologist or whatever the expert might be as far as trying to figure out what these things are. But anyways, everybody just has a basis for how they're going to look at information. So as far as, the key point, and this is going to be my final video on this topic, the skewed bias, or, the being slave to your bias, is I'm going to say that the thing that motivated me to do this is the flat earth. It has been the most recent thing that I've gotten into. For the last 6 months, I've been trying to figure out if the earth is flat, and it's not hard for me to look at the possibility of that even being, because, if 9/11's true, that it was an inside job, and, going back to the Mark Sargent videos, the Flat Earth Clues, if everything's tied together in a big freaking conspiracy, then I can entertain this like none other. The thought, and every little thing that happens, it's like change into a new lens. And I'm beginning to find that my view is not really shifting. It's really, I'm just learning how to interpret the evidence properly. So I just thank God that I've been willing and able to use my brain effectively and not reject evidence. I'm not afraid to look at things that are not true, because I find that my brain is not easily swayed. But then other people might look at me and say, "Oh, you are easily swayed because you're starting to look at the flat Earth like it's a good possibility." And it's like, well, hold on though. I mean, I've done my due diligence. I've done my homework. What have you done? Have you even spent one day reviewing this information that people are coming up with? I mean, I say, don't watch one stupid video and say, well, I could easily debunk that, so flat Earth is stupid. But here's the thing. Some of the first videos that I watched, I started commenting on, and I'm like, you didn't really think this through, did you? And then I found that one thing that triggered my, the avalanche that began to fall. And, the snowball effect it's unstoppable now, because everything that I'm seeing, I think the biggest problem with this whole, flat Earth investigation is that there's clearly a deception going on. I don't know if the flat earthers that I've heard, the researchers, have all the answers, and that's clear. But with the collaboration of everybody coming together and adding their little tidbit into the mix, that's why I'm here. I'm addressing the bias part of it. You got to look at your lens that you're viewing everything through. If you're an atheist, I know a lot of atheists that are saying the world is flat now. And then I know a lot of Christians. I know a lot of, well, I don't know everybody personally, but I know that they have finally started to look through the correct lens. Now, granted, I don't want to just say that I'm the only one with the correct lens, because I'm still trying to adjust my view, trying to adjust. Everything that I look at, I'm looking for the correct puzzle piece to fit the big picture. So I'm not trying to force that puzzle piece into place. I'm not. But, you know, when you're doing a puzzle, you start seeing the colors. You're like, oh, let's put these puzzle pieces close to the same colors, and you take the darker pieces and put those together and make little piles here and there. And then once you start seeing how it all comes together, you start building the edges, and then you start building the images, the little pieces here and there, and you're like, okay, I can start seeing an image over here, and then each little piece plays a role. Each little puzzle piece has the ability to contribute to the big picture. So, with that said, maybe I am just one little puzzle piece in the big picture, but if you, or whoever's watching this video, if you think that you might believe that this is a possibility, do some investigation, especially if you have some sort of research or some sort of education to back you up, because credentials are really all that people care about. They're not going to look at this crazy guy named Charlie from 4BZ Truth. They're not going to look at me and say, oh, well, this guy, you know, is legit. No, I'm just a peasant with a cell phone. Apparently people comment on that, and that's all I am. I'm a freaking peasant. But people with eyes, ears, and a brain have the capability of understanding things as long as they're willing to listen or watch or think, Anyways, but you guys are awesome. I look forward to doing a lot more of these videos, but I'm actually starting to get more passionate as I'm doing them. I just need more time, apparently. My wife is still not on board, so anyways, maybe I can get some encouragement from you guys and trying to figure out how to play the balancing act. So anyways, I'm going to be doing some really interesting ones. The next one I think I'm going to work on is Antarctica. I need to figure out why, they're sending this dude on a Antarctic mission to walk across Antarctica by himself. So I'm gonna touch on that on my next video. But this is the end of this series, and I appreciate you guys watching. And please subscribe and like this video. I look forward to, engaging with you guys through the process. Thank you, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye.